You seem to be the only one that's here at the moment.
I'm awesome that way.
497 files have changed. Yes, I know. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that.
Did something update?
Florida. 497 files and deleted 127 files. I use sync thing to sync stuff between all the computers on the network. And I have it set up as one machine is the hub and all the other machines connect to it. For some odd reason, which I am not real sure what happened, I connected one of the machines that I haven't used in quite a while. And instead of updating to the newest, latest files, it updated and everybody got all the really old files.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was pretty much my thought. I was kind of like, oh crap.
That sounds like something Microsoft would do.
So luckily I realized what was going on and I pulled one of the other machines off the network before it had a chance to update. Made a backup of the files I needed and wanted, the good files. So last night, I deleted all the really old crap and put all the really new crap back on. I kind of forgot that this laptop was not on the network at the time, so it's updated. But yeah, that was kind of a pain. I was kind of like, why did you do this? Why? Wait, shouldn't the file dates?
Okay.
So I like sync thing. For the most part, it works well. But there are sometimes it just does bizarre crap. Just, especially if you got,
Like Microsoft where they download all your stuff and then delete it.
well, okay, maybe not quite that bad, but had I not realized what was going on, it could have been a whole lot worse because I just happened to be watching. I went, oh crap, it's deleting files. Turn off the network, turn off the network. And I think I probably lost something along the way, but I'm not real sure what I lost. But I use it like the Canon printer drivers are there. So if I set up a new machine, I've got instant access to the printer drivers. I got instant access to files that I use to set machines up, you know.
That's one thing I'm really bad about is I need to A, organize all my damn bookmarks. B, sort all my bookmarks.
Oh, don't get me started.
C, clean up all my bookmarks.
I got bookmarks dating back like 15 years.
Oh, I've got bookmarks for if I'm in college.
I got,
Before I knew you could like organize them, and then you know that I do know you can organize them and put folders and crap now on the tab bar. I drove too lazy to put them in the right spot when I'm doing them on the fly.
my,
Sometimes I take the time to put them where, I have an idea what they are.
I've got like ham radio bookmarks and Linux bookmarks and vintage computer bookmarks. Only I tried to organize them at some point, and I've got like 3 or 4 folders all named the same thing. Ham radio, ham radio, ham radio.
Well, that's, I probably got 4 folders that say games. Under two of them were under new folders.
DOS games and
Back in the day when I, you know,
retro computers.
bookmarks were in a master list, and there are 500 bookmarks down, and there's a folder called, games, and I was like, well, I'm too lazy to go to that one. Let's just make a new one on the bar.
Here's one. Retro computers. Sounds great. What should be in there? I don't know. Cause I got a folder that says Commodore 64. I got a folder that says Apple II. I got a folder that says TI 99. If those aren't retro computers, I don't know.
Oh, that's just somewhere I have a security folder, and inside the security folder, I've got like programming and apps and search tools and
Right.
so there's subfolders for all that, and training classes and CBTs, and then I've like DerbyCon, so I put a folder called D for DerbyCon, which I put all the talks and security stuff, and then stuff from Trusted Sec and some other security companies I use for SMDA meetings, and they're under D, which is on the bar right there. And then the other day I made a new folder called E, and that's getting all the miscellaneous stuff I don't feel like putting in their own folders at the moment.
What I really need is something that'll go through and verify that the links are still good.
Yeah. Some of them aren't.
Some of them are. Some of them will link to one of those landing pages,
Yeah. This file's gone. Here's the page.
Here's a page.
Well, it's like I went to
10 trillion bookmarks and none of them are good.
sorting they're trying to find a tire for the stupid Kubota. And it's got aftermarket tires on it. And their company that made the tires don't make the tire anymore in that size any longer. But like when it's those custom rims and all that, which don't match what a Kubota normally has on them. And nobody seems to have them, and then it's some reason they've got an inner tube in them, and the inner tube got a split in it. So it's like, how do you find an inner tube for a ATV that's a funky size and a tire size that they're all tubeless, right? So
they should be tubeless.
And then and these guys have put tubes in it because they hauled a semi around, like a drag semi. They use it to move it around in the tarmac, to line it up on the drag and everything.
What?
So it's a 26 by 12 by 12. So, it's in an aluminum custom aftermarket hub that's like this freaking wide with the valve stem that sticks out, made of metal.
And you can't go back to
Most inner tubes, it's on the side, right?
Yeah.
And it's not flat rim, it's curved, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody really makes an inner tube anymore, hardly, that has a metal valve stem, because you need the metal valve stem so it doesn't rip the plastic stem or rubber stems off when the tire turns.
That's interesting, because I've got metal valve stems on my car.
Yeah.
But it's not
a real
tube.
tire.
Yeah,
it's not a tube.
It's not a tube.
So ironically, I don't know if you've ever looked at valve stems, but there are thousands of valve stems So trying to find an inner tube that has the right valve stem is a goddamn joke in its own right. So evidently, and I'm not entirely sure I have the right valve stem. I just found a valve stem that is metal that has the tire size, which is a TR6, not to be confused by a TR8, which is a rubber version of it, and a TR13, which is a metal tube one with a 90-degree bend in it. Which I'm not entirely sure what the difference of that is, other than the diameter size and your ability to bolt it to the rim, because it doesn't have nuts on a TR13. But
Well, isn't it nice to know?
yeah, hold on,
One would have thought that valve stems would have been fairly standardized.
oh, there's standards. And it goes up to like 568 or something with different letters in front based on what material it's made out of. And you can pull up a complete chart, of hundreds of different kinds of valve stems. And each number has its own version of how long the stem is, what it's made out of, if it's got a bushing bracket or a lug nut, or if it's a pair of double screws, or it's nuts, dude. I had no idea.
I was at an auction 2 weeks ago. And I really don't know. I really don't know the honest price. They had a Kubota. They could not sell the stupid
Parking lot,
Do what?
it's 75, both sides is a parking lot.
I don't doubt it. I really don't.
Yeah, can't see in the sun and everybody's trying to go home.
Oh my goodness. He's got a thing. He's got a scanner thing.
With a Mickey. You need to delete it from the internet.
Woo.
Lap
Awesome.
charger.
I forgot to bring the thing so we can see it work. No, oh well. Oh, there's too many things I have to remember.
Wee. Mickey's going for a ride.
That turns faster than I thought it would.
It's another one, it's kind of slow. Your sawdust on the bearings on that. It's so, it's noisy. I sprayed it with silicone. As opposed to oil.
I watched a video this morning that you would appreciate. A guy had a Harbor Freight air compressor that was 8 years old. And of course, it's an oil-free air compressor, so it's extremely noisy. And this guy had the bright idea of taking the compressor out of a freezer to replace the air compressor on his Harbor Freight air tank. So he went through the steps of what all is involved to swap it out from, pumping Freon to pumping air. Because there's not a whole lot to it. It's like pretty much, you gotta dispose of the Freon, that's up between you and God, as he put it. And then, of course, you have oil in the freezer compressor, but it's reacts with moisture in the air and becomes an acid, which smells really bad. So he pours that oil out, right, to get how much oil was in it, and then puts mineral oil in to rinse the tank out, and then replaces it with air compressor oil, right? And then he, cuts the lines and then put fittings on it and put a oil filter on a line to go into his thing or whatever, and then he hooks it all back up and test runs it, you know. Of course, then it's like 3 times more annoying noise. Right? And he's like, well, there's something not right about that. And it blows out one of the cracks of the line and starts whistling at the line because there was a check valve on the Harbor Freight in line. And he said, well, that's not going to work. You know, takes that lug out and, you know, it's like, said the neat thing, he said, because there's a check valve in the freezer compressor. You don't really need this one. And he takes a screwdriver and pokes it through and knocks the plastic check valve out. He said, the neat thing is you knock that out, it becomes a 3/8 pass through. And he puts it back in and hooks it back up. Whisper quiet, fills the tank twice as fast. And it's like, Mike would appreciate that.
Well, we were coming home,
Something tells me I didn't do it right.
Did you scan the house? Are you
there,
trying to get the Mickey Mouse?
there are 2 scan processes there. And one of them is for rooms, and that you did the room one.
I did the room.
What does it say?
Oh, okay. Like I said, something told me I didn't do it right.
Well, the other app is Kia, something like that. K, begins with a K. And that is for objects. So the pre-drilled all of the joints, put screws in every one of them.
Well, of course.
So that's the reason we got the clamps on.
Well, what are we doing? Neither of these 20 to process. Okay. Oh, we got it. It's individual. Oh, I get it.
And I think there's an automatic function, and it takes them.
Right, set a timer.
I just downloaded it today, and I spent most of my time doing this and less.
On that side. You got that part working.
Yeah.
Leroy gets to play with the how's the app work.
Okay. I'm not sure it's moving me in the corners.
And I get up on the shelf and try to get out my 77 repositionable contact cement.
That a little long? Long.
It had enough to go.
Oh.
I could have thrown it away last time I used it if I'd
Oh.
done that.
The amount of cans I threw away while Dad was out of town. Different air cans and wasp spray. There's probably 40 cans of wasp spray between the garage and the shop. 2/3 of them are empty. It was like, I don't understand why you just don't chuck it in the trash can when you're.
So about 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I was re-roofing the house. And I had cut the back door out, so it opened out as opposed to in, so I could have that swing space in the garage. And while I was on the roof, I got the sheathing and ran the wire from one side over to the other, because with the door opening out, the outside light was behind the door. So I hop off the ladder, go down, and I'm getting ready to unscrew the ball, take the fixture loose and move it. Reach up there, put my hand in there and unscrew the ball. Friggin' wasp nest. And so get stung and they chased me around the house. And I finally gave up. I went in and got the wasp spray. I sprayed up in there. And I'm thinking, that. So I lean in to look. And a drop of wasp spray goes between the glasses and my eyebrow, hits me right in the eye. It's like, I'm having a sugar crash. I got wasp spray in my eye. I'm tired. I'm not going back up on the roof. This is
not a good day.
Not, yeah. The likelihood of me falling off the roof because I can't see out of my eye.
Oh, the guy I watched the videos of, he made like a, it's not necessarily like a home improvement, we like building garages, shop, backyard stuff, and he remodeled his porch and stuff like that. Just home improvement stuff, but he made like a really cool shed. And then he was showing this video of somebody sitting in of them opening their shed door, and the lawnmower's in there. But all the way around the whole, like right at the thing between the roof and the top of the thing was wasp nests like that, like 50 of them, all the way along, like just on the back of the door, all down the corner, all along the left wall, and all across the back wall, and you just see the guy, like, he'd open the door, he'd film that, and then he closes the back door and backs away, It's like the guys in the videos like, yeah, just call that theirs, walk away, never walk back in there. He said, they'll remember your face, they'll get you in your yard. That many of them will take you out of this world.
Well, Julie and I built a shed in the backyard probably 15 years ago, and we fabricated the trusses.
Mm-hmm.
And we leaned the ladder against the base of the garage, stuck it out over where we were going to need the trusses. Ran a line in the top of the ladder over the roof to tie it to the bumper of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used a block and tackle to
Cool.
waste. And people would come over and look at that.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Did
Because clearly I'm not doing something right. It wants to upload. Does it upload a file somewhere and then render out the STL file?
In upload, my understanding in what I did today in a brief term, it uploaded all the photos and processed it and then produced a 3D image.
Okay.
Watching one of those shows where they're building buildings. And first they were using extension ladders, the metal aluminum ones. And the guy's coming along laying the sheet down to roof the thing, and of course the ladder's standing like that, and the truss goes through the ladder. And they'd already finished it, nailed it in, they're getting ready to lay the sheet plate, and they're like, like these three Mexicans come up and they look at it and they're like, well, that's an issue.
It'll be a problem. Julie and I volunteered with hospice, and this guy had started constructing his home and he got sick. Well, he had framed the walls and got all the trusses up there, but he had never properly anchored them. So the wind came along, and all of them were laying down. Some of them had gone all the way over when they were pointed down. And I figured out that if we took a rope about the 30th one back and ran it through this garage, we could hook it up to the truck
Okay.
and start all over again. But he had, for whatever reason, he was going to have a basement area under the garage, but had not poured the floor. And he's out there dancing on a 2x6. And the next thing down is the basement under the garage. So I'm not getting out there. I'm sorry. You know, it needs to be done, but
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
I'll anchor them from the ladder on the outside, but I'm not.
The room scan works good if you actually know that you're doing a room scan.
Yeah, the root scan works great,
If that's what you know you're actually doing.
and you can get in there after it's scanned and rotate around. It will, on the room scans, like if you, where you were positioned, it wouldn't get under the chairs and under the.
Yeah, it missed a whole big section.
And if you get up, and walk around with the tablet or the iPad, it will tell you where they are missing and fill in.
Yeah, as I rotated around, red disappeared.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool.
that is. Being able to just take, being able to. Flip it. Of course, it's missing big chunks and it's having a real problem with the windows.
Yeah.
Oh, we're upside down too. There, I'll flip this back over.
what negative?
That's actually really cool. So I really, you know, I took some pictures, but without uploading it, I guess it's not regular.
Oh, are we logged into the internet?
No, probably not.
Okay.
I didn't want
I
this too much.
never brought that iPad down here, so.
I didn't want to mess too much with your family.
Feel free to do whatever you want with it, because that is not a. I don't like the Apple operating system.
Yeah.
And that is a pain in the butt to try to do any normal thing with.
Ain't it though?
But the
Well, to the Apple ecosystem.
yeah, the
Written for crazy people.
3D, the scanning software and the
Well, it's pretty good.
LiDAR is pretty cool.
So there's some neat stuff, but no, I just don't think the people that programming that platform is nuts. They just
I thought you had apples.
oh, I've got some, and that's why I know they are programmed by
Crazy
whack
people.
jobs that don't understand how the rest of the world functions. Artisans, they write things so backwards, it's weird.
That is actually kind of cool. So the LiDAR's built into the tablet.
You know, just been taking a negative picture and sticking it together.
That's what.
You should see what you can do with your Wi-Fi lab.
With my WAP.
Yeah, haven't you seen any of that stuff with the new 5G? Can map your entire house and know exactly where you are and what you're doing.
I believe it probably can. AT&T is such a weird company.
Oh, it's not, I really think so. Google Hockey Puck or the,
So that's the printed one. And that's the original.
over here.
And you can see the bases really didn't turn out real well, but everything else.
You could have took the base off. Oh, and you don't have the model yet.
I did, well,
I was thinking you had this.
I had the STL file.
Yeah.
And the base was worse. I modified it enough to get it flat, to sit flat. But if you look at the original, there's like an edge around it, and the scanner was actually picking up that edge, and it was just making it a pain in the ass. And
I was trying to look at the other, like you could have, I was thinking of, you had this model, like you're going, like, you just cut off the bottom and put that model underneath the other, but then it's like you don't have the original, you can look your thing scan, so you just need to like, go steal a leaf off the internet.
I mean, it's a kid's game, and the grandkids are going to complain about it because they're grandkids. But I'm going to go, you want to play this game or not?
Yeah. I came across the video.
Oh, you're half cut off. I thought you would have. You're there in the center. I cut you in half.
There's I guess, I don't know if you guys seen, there's a new Porsche, I guess, came out in the last year. Over $500,000 Porsche. But they're very limited, right? So not a lot of people ever get a hold of them. They go, Porsche picks who they'll sell them to.
Yeah.
You know, so this kid was like, wants one real bad, so he has found a guy on the internet that has gotten one of those, and they did like full body scan of the parts.
It's
or
3D
or
printed.
Yeah, and how to, and then has modded the parts so that they'll adapt to a Porsche. I don't know if it was a specific Porsche or what, but we went out and bought, like, he said what model Porsche it was. And it had a soft top, it was the donor body, right? To put this 3D printed body onto that Porsche. Of course, he'd never 3D printed in a day in his life, so it starts out, they bought some, you know, like $500 open printer and a certain pet G. And in 3 months, they've got a, you know, it's kind of a Jimmy rig fiber body of the Porsche. Working, and it's wild what they managed to pull off. But what's weird is his buddy that was helping him was a 3D print guy, and I was really shocked at what pet G, really shocked at what printer he bought. Because then, of course, they blew like the first 4 prints. And because they had to build cardboard and stick it in cardboard and keep the heat, you know, in order for the print to print right. And then, because it takes a little while to print each piece, and you're talking to cards, but you can only print like square pieces like this big, right? So you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of parts and hundreds of hours. And then he's like, day 2, and they're setting up a second printer beside the first printer, and like by the end of the first week, there's 3 printers on the shelf, and they're putting them in the whole thing in a big wall of cardboard. And then the guy,
Why didn't they get an enclosed one?
well, I was like, for what they spend on the printer they use, is like, why didn't they buy an Eglo or whatever that one is? It's like $400, like $200 cheaper than the one they bought, and it would have done the ASA, which would have been better for car anyway than Pet G. So this guy's talking about all down the thing, you know, kind of like, you guys are doing this all wrong, especially if that guy knew what he was doing. They're like, why are you doing what you're doing? Anyhow,
I know ASA is not real fun to print because it gives off toxic fumes, but
yeah,
you need an enclosed body for that. I mean,
just the enclosed body, it's a little bit more temperature and it's UV resistant. It's good for car parts out
for car parts.
But then but then there's the catch-22 though too. Is like, so they did like the hood first, so how many parts came out to be, like 40, 50 parts for the hood.
probably way more parts than it needed to be.
So you use like a soldering iron to like, kind of like spot weld
Yeah.
all the pieces together. And then he picks it up and half of it falls on the floor and shatters all over the place. And he's like, well, crap, you know? So then he puts it all back together and then they like with fiberglass the backside. So it'll just hold together, right? And then they, you know, while they mock it up to the car and start doing all the parts. And it was really wild because like since it was soft top, they took the soft top off, but the windows for the doors had this big curve in it. And we had another buddy come over. For $485, they bought like the windows for like a 911,
Mhm.
which has the box
Yeah,
thing. Fit that door, fit the same mounts, and then match the new car, right? Trains. So that, you know, so I was like, I was shocked at that much. I mean, because there's about that much difference in the window, or how much more glass it adds, you know, from this curved part to the thing, and that goes down in that door and matched up. So I didn't know, you know, horseshoes those many parts over like that. But it was looking pretty good. They took the hood and cut the trim off, took it off, and then kept the original frame, and then put the plastic frame and then fiberglass that in on the backside. To be, you know, so that all the mechanisms and the door hatch and everything would work, and then they kept the two doors from the original car and the door frame for the car, so we wouldn't have to do anything structurally to add their, you know.
I watched a guy who he's kind of into like electric vehicles and weird electric vehicles from like the 80s. And he had two of these one things, and what he was letting somebody drive it, and real unstable, so it flipped over. He didn't know what to do with it, so he ended up cutting the fiberglass body off and doing some other stuff. But he ended up getting a bamboo printer and printing parts to replace broken parts.
Yeah.
And he pretty much said the same thing. He didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
He ended up having to, he had one of those reality scanners to scan the old parts, but he ended up having to send the parts or the scans to somebody who actually knew what they were doing and get them all cleaned up so that he could print them, but he didn't have any clue.
Like how to use to clean them up in the software.
Yeah, he didn't have any clue how to, he had borrowed the scanner from somebody. And in the end, it turned out to be a really nice, well,
if you know what you're doing,
a really, a weird hybrid of what it used to be and what it became. But I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, I guess I've got a decent printer. I mean, if I need car parts, yes, I could do it.
Car parts are relative to what goes into them, they're pretty cheap.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
Well,
3D printing, they're even cheaper. That's
it's cheap. If you can find them. If you've got two rare pieces of whatever from the 80s and the companies have long been out of business.
yeah. That's what I figure it was meant built and the guy that invented the what do they call it? He uses the rotary 3D printer. Forgot what he means, it something pi.
Yeah, I know.
Polar 3D.
Polar 3D.
This is end up what his company is after he got them making the road. But anyhow, he said one of his first parts he printed to be like a 1960 something convertible with the handle was roast. Go buy the metal one if you can find it, you know, like $150 part because it's a vintage car, 3D printed on it, worth it's fun, right? Yeah.
But I mean, I drive a Crown Vic.
Yeah.
There are like a couple of trillion Crown
Oh,
Vics.
yeah.
I don't need to worry about car parts.
Well, depends on what parts and what you wanna spend. As he put it, it's like it was a dime to print out a handle for the window, to crank the window up and
Well-
down, you know?
I mean, the Mercury Marauder, the Lincoln Continental, the Crown Vic, and whatever the other really cheap one was. They're all the exact same car with almost exactly the same parts. I could go to any jump yard and best off from like 2005 to 2011 when they stopped making them. It's pretty much all the same parts except for the 2008 because of course it has to be with. Because of course that's the one I own in the 2008.
The one-off.
The Ford kind of screwed everybody on the 2008.
But it's about the Prius too, because you get really into the nuances with. They started migrating to the third gen, and the third gen didn't really come out until 2010. In 2007, they started swapping pieces, right? That they were prepping for the three. And in 2008, they changed the vendor for like the master cylinder.
Yeah.
And it, as they just crook. You know, it's a $15 part, but it's like on the back of the firewall underneath the coolant system for the electric motors and the pumps and all that. And so you got to move like half the engine out of the way.
Well, here's one for you. And I don't understand it. I never will. It's the same motor, windshield wiper motor, but they changed the cowling on it. So the cowling that's on the 2008 lets water leak
Leaking.
in, and it causes problems with the motor.
Nice.
Well, whatever they've done, it's a semi-easy fix. You just got to get a cowling from a different model, and it'll fit in there. Why they changed it, nobody knows.
You'll probably stop cocking it or something.
No, it's an entirely different cow. I mean, you can look. I had the 09 and the 08, and you can look, and it's physically different cowling.
The exterior,
Physically different. Why they did it? No one knows.
hello,
Hello.
Howdy.
And they, for whatever reason, the door switches are 100% reversed. Every other one, you know, you hit the button on the right, it unlocks the car. You hit the button on the left, it locks. Mine's exactly opposite.
Nice. Not wired backwards, is it?
So I've heard that you can take the switches from somewhere else, but they will be marked wrong. They're just marked incorrectly. So, no,
very young, this is the copy.
Good guess.
that was 3D printed from Ray scanned that for me. He scanned the yellow one.
Yes, 3D scanner.
I scanned the room. Did a really great job of it too. Wow. I'm sorry.
This is using a software.
All right there, man.
You were talking about a door handle, it reminded me. Around 76. They got a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Except for the base,
It was not
That'll be good
a
enough for the
fine,
grandkids.
hardy vehicle. And the window was frozen in the wintertime, and I just gave it what for to crank it down, and when I did, I broke the door, or the window. Right. So I'm too cheap to go to Volkswagen and buy another. So I take the thing off,
I cut him off.
and it's cast.
He's only partially there.
And the
Barry's worse.
rivet for
He's
the
only
knob
halfway.
is broken. So I get in there and put a bolt and a sewing spool on there. And that's so my daughter was about 6 or 7, I guess. And she bought me a door handle for Christmas. And I said, oh, that's really cool. Would you like for me to put it on? And I said, yeah, that'd be wonderful. So she comes back in and says, do you want me to keep you on? Or are you gonna throw it around? Oh, just pitch it back here and just run around it.
Yeah.
So I hop in my car on Monday and I looked at him. And there's the door handle with the stool. And then I'm taking the other
ceiling
window
part
break off and throw it away. It's like, oh,
That's awesome. That's
part of
all
the floor's
that-
been done.
My dad had a pair of
Use it.
vice grip.
I said, "Oh,
Quite
no,
fun.
something."
I don't remember what happened to the handle if he broke it.
Button.
He did a lot of snow plowing.
But you mustn't be in.
It probably fell off and then.
No, you can
No,
move,
it must
you
have
can
somewhere.
move all over the floor. It's an
A
Android.
pair of vice grips clamped onto the square and the peg or whatever sticking out of the door to open and close it.
If you hit that, hit the record button, you don't have to hold it, just hit the button. And then you'll see it go red. And the red will start to disappear, the more you get the scans done. And the more you walk around, the better your scan's going to be.
I remember a guy in the house coming in and telling us that kind of stuff you were doing. When it first started coming out.
And if you can get most of the red to disappear, then you've got a good scan. Or a fairly decent scan.
I was pretty impressed with what all it can figure out.
This is free, yeah. It's a free application.
I don't know. Is it free?
Yeah.
The app?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another app that you can take that and edit. It's gotta be free, I'm not paying for anything for that.
He's going to get a much better scan because he actually walked around.
Enjoying, I see the same one?
Yep. And then
You run out of memory.
if we're happy with the scan. It's fairly good scan. Hit start. Oh, this will fix this. I know, you got it, yep. And then we can name it if we want to. And save it.
Right, use of
He used like one of those reality scanners to do that. This apparently can do scanning, but you gotta upload the files somewhere and then they render an STL for you. So we didn't upload the file.
I pre-drilled everything. This one. I pre-drilled everything and when I put the screws in, they split. So I took them out, put glue in there. And they're clamped. Hopefully I can rehabilitate them because it wasn't that hard to cut them, but cutting out the opening for the switch and for the power. This stuff, you can't use a chisel on it. It's like trying to chisel gravel. Yeah, it's just the tips and little chips and very. And this is old IKEA crap. And the Well, it's not like medium density fiberboard. This stuff is laminated under high pressure, so they've got stuff the size of
You guys know that it's school twice the same equipment.
No.
Something 8.5 of me.
But you should have seen the render I did.
But
You
then,
were
yeah,
mostly
it's-
not there.
but then,
I did this because somebody gave me one of those and I figured to make it automatically.
Mickey Mouse is flat.
But
It's still
anyway,
pretty neat.
this turntable will be available tomorrow for anybody who wants to use it. And you can hear, I told you earlier, it's got sawdust or granular in the bearings, and so.
That's
I bought
that's
a parts to
character.
make one, but it's still works. I think I don't pay.
I
For a
spent,
camera.
I spent nothing with this. This was all that. And
It's the best, that's the best part. I spent nothing.
You can.
both of these
AC.
AC 110, it's a microwave turntable motor. And I've got a batch of those, so if anybody wants that,
I think,
It always turning the same direction.
no.
Start different.
So this is going from the top, clockwise. And when you start it again, it should go anti-clockwise.
when it decides to actually move.
Yeah,
Well, it was,
well,
I was trying to figure out going the other way.
there's a lot of lash in there. A lot.
You can hear it. Now, the scanning platform that Ray's has is a square. And all the dots are equal distance from each other. It's not weird triangle pattern or whatever.
Yeah, well, I drew that up in SketchUp. I figured there, it's weird enough that you should be able to position things repeatedly.
Yeah,
What's the name you used to have? Lacy something? Lacy. How would
Lazy Susan for like for like food, kitchen microwave.
Lazy
Yeah.
Susan.
Susan, yeah.
Well, the
I saw in Amazon different sizes.
It almost looks.
that's the motor. The bearing is a heavy duty one for like kitchen duty for cabinets and stuff.
It almost looks like a record player. Let's put a stylus on it, see what we get. Pretty good. You can only get better from there.
It's after a grenade.
But look, all the people are just kind of, I think probably because we were moving around or something. They didn't know how to lock onto it. We've all got like really weird flat faces.
Imagine this with AI computing all the joints and everything to make it more real.
The anatomy, that's when Julie was in nursing school, she got that app. I've never looked at it, but I'm pretty sure it's the skeletal portions are repeatable.
Most mine.
Amazing.
Like seconds.
Hate when that happens.
I forgot, I was wanted to pay attention to that because I remember, but in the middle of the meeting, it's like, it ends at 6 o'clock. I looked over, 6 o'clock. Crap.
What were you trying to bid on? Stuff that you need or stuff that you want?
Well, it was a metal rack with all the
Oh,
boards.
oh, so stuff that you need
All
and
the-
want.
all the attachments and then all the pegboard stuff and everything with it. Went for $30.
That was cheap enough.
Yeah, that's a decent price. Oh,
Considering I spent $20 on just a piece of pegboard,
yeah.
metal
Yeah,
pegboard.
it's like $20 for each section. I was like, and this came with 4. And it's the welded together. Heavy duty one. I was like, dang it.
I have 25 pieces of pegboard that I found out in the trash. And I gave half of them to Ray and half of them to my daughter. And neither one of them needs that many. I wish that I'd known you guys needed some.
No, I'm just trying to get some
There you
metal.
are.
For all the wood ones. Lost so easy, they're sitting out in the fast and they get wet.
You probably need to turn the volume down or
It's all
something.
right. I'm trying to convince Dad that we can pitch all that and so I got him some metal ones to pull it up and not have to worry about him hanging a hammer on it or something and ripping out of the wall.
Or you do a French screen. There's a whole.
Well,
I'm not seeing anything by something.
Kind of like,
There's no video. You probably need to turn the volume down.
bookshelf, not even bookshelf, it was like a office space. Cabinetry that was built for.
There you go.
thing. And
What happens if you put the iPad on there in a room scan mode?
Mm.
auto scan. I've been trying to come up with like a really cool way to hang the tables or put the tables on something, with all the sockets and wrenches and everything. What tables are those kind of thing, like French fleet or something is magnets behind them on the go, so you just grab it and go. You put them all together, and cut my saw really good.
What I did, I was given a really heavy duty 4-drawer modular file cabinet and put bars in there and cut laminate flooring to just fit, and then anchored the socket rails right there. And so all of the 3/8 in all of the half, the 3/4 1 inch. I only get one of those out of the time. They're too damn heavy there.
Yeah. Well, I've got all the wrenches right now on like a tray. Like one of those old one those. And I'm kind of trying to figure out how to scale them up. So I got the big wall. All schools have the board.
That's what we're not aware of, those funds.
I was thinking of like putting them all in orders, and metric and ASC or SAE all mixed together.
Small and big.
Yeah, and so that way, like, what works the fact, and half that fits, I'm just go down the line, if you need to do this, I'm gonna do it, I want to be able to like, probably grab it, and take it out in the field with your car or your garage, or,
Well,
so that was like French pleats, get them, I was saying, hang them on, and then it comes off.
yeah, I showed you that, what we had done with our implement races. I turned a piece of wood. I think the largest opening in inch I have is 1.5 inches. So I started with an inch and a half down, just marked how wide that is. And then went to the next one, and cut that down. And so it goes from side to side in the toolbox. And I put the open end on it, lock it, and it comes down. It's a magnet. And they don't tip over, you know, they're on the dowel, and they are, as you did, large to small, regardless of whether SAE or metric. So that's how, somehow or another.
One of the things I was looking at the other day, and I was at someone saying that
And outside of the weird
kryptonite or
parts,
something just had kind of like a cradle for the ring to sit in, and then they can put magnet in the bottom of that, say it goes help hold them. And then they can label all of them, you know, across the top or whatever. So you just tell, and then they have it like a little triangle thing, we need to come grab the whole, like 10 inches at a time and comes out and says. With that left guys like.
You ended up outside the room. He's got that puzzled look on his face.
Well, they're going so fast, so they're sections are shot over
It-
shot,
Did some funky stuff up there.
going too fast for it.
Vicente's a little, like a big, big two and some spots.
So they're to mute the phone.
You need to turn the volume down on your phone.
Well, the ceilings are nice circle.
It did some funky stuff.
Got a pretty nice picture with Clint there.
Yeah, there's two of them, and he's twice the size in one of them.
And you're kind of stretched across the floor and out on the outside.
Oh, the glass has got it all. Freaking out. That is crazy.
Is the motion this?
I came up
Rest
with,
status. I don't know. Well, you just
Color,
Supposed to be 10 centimeters.
10 different
This is the
colors,
best.
and then
Done.
it progresses and goes again. And so
I don't really work in
stop
the
it,
price.
stretches, so the only ones I remember is the quarter is red.
Distance
And,
10 to 30.
and 10 millimeters
Yeah.
is red. Those are the two that were.
I don't think
And
they're
5/8 is green.
Didn't use it so much.
No, they just happens to be in that progression that they were in, but, like, when I need a wrench and I find the right
One needs to
size,
be the base.
you know, I can go,
That
okay,
could
I
be the
know
base.
it's gonna be
Well,
perfect,
if we plug that one in right now.
whether it's a socket or.
Yeah, but the Harbor Freight has a socket set that's colored like that. And they're always ragging on it because of the color wears off so easily or whatever, so then like never caused, that's a good way to tell. You match your wrenches to the colors of your sockets and you could just be like, oh, I need that one. And
Everything is.
don't have to try to read it. So-
Okay, from the blue dot.
Yeah, going the other way, my Allen wrenches.
Out there.
The same way, they're a continuation of that, so if I have a quarter inch Allen wrench, it's red.
When you can match back and forth or whatever. Or you know the pattern like, well, if it's not green and the blue's the next size up, just
Yeah, in,
look for the blue instead of the.
I printed them out.
See, it
Mm.
says,
Well,
I don't know.
excuse me.
What
I
it's
went
actually
into-
measuring.
Cause it says meter.
Spreadsheet, and I varied the width of the columns.
Well, you
Appropriately
also,
Yeah.
like right in
and then followed the color coding. And did English and metric
way off.
on printout, and that is glued to my toolbox. My tool cabinet, so I can look at the tool cabinet and say,
That's why
this one's too small, the next one would come by the need is going to be white.
32
Yeah.
on board.
When
Yeah.
this is too
Well,
big,
then
the next
for-
one I need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you got your, yeah. No, I got you, that makes a lot of sense. The, what's funny, so that was one of my puzzles I threw at AI a couple months back when I was playing with it real hard. It
Meters.
isn't capable of putting them in size order.
1.45.
Nope. ChatGPT cannot put them in size order.
I mean, I guess for rough,
I was like blown away.
rough guess.
It gives it to you all both sizes and metric, but it can't put them in the correct order.
1.36 meters.
Even though they give you the metric for all the.
So it's off by about 30.
And that, I
It's
just
not enough.
That's what I was like, I threw it in there and it's like 14 inch, 10 inch, or 14 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and I'm thinking like, what?
See,
Yeah, I was just,
all the demos I've ever seen with these
I tried like 4 or 5
have
different.
been way
Try to
better.
get straightened
than
out,
what
got a couple more, right, but
They
it's
seem
still
like.
like
changed.
1 in 5 are off.
But that makes sense, because when I asked it to search for something on Amazon, they must use the same AI.
Oh, it's bad. The everything, the spell check got me so bad.
1.40
It doesn't know what words are anymore.
And I very meticulously say,
It's
I
on
want
vibration, I think. Yeah.
this
Some
size, this. It's like, would you like?
Not from what I've read
Dress
from
or
from
size pants?
Yeah,
You say one.
no,
One.
I played with it for like an hour one night, cause it's
Yeah,
like,
so
I've
it's
never
up by
mixed
about
them
30.
together, and I was like, just like, well, what's the best way to do it? Cause I was like, I don't wanna
Seems
try
like
to
it's
convert all this crap
constantly
to
off by
metric
about
or the
30.
other way around, or when I was like, hey, I should be able to do this
Give or
like
take.
that. And I was like, give me a list of all the sizes from 1 inch to 8 inch.
Yeah, so I saw the
And
videos
it's
and.
sort of like the SAE, and it did all right with that. It was like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, include metric as well, and then it's just like the list is scrambled. And
I have never gotten these to work
Yeah.
better than about this.
like, what keeps you, you know,
The way of
I did
your.
this
From the CPU.
2 decades ago.
Make
And so
some
AI
distance.
wouldn't have made that.
Right.
Then I'm
So I went in on
1 minute.
a spreadsheet and
One
did
point
fractional,
mhm,
and some of the metric sizes are pretty damn close.
oh, yeah, some of them are interchangeable pretty much,
Yes.
'cause they're off by like hundreds of a millimeter or something like that. But that's what, when that, those are the ones that they really throw it off, so like, it would say, they'd go like 4, like 5,
We need to
6,
check the
7,
comments on
5.5.
people in the
Yeah,
videos.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell did?
No, don't really close.
I was like, and that's on the metric side, it's like, why is 7 coming before 5.5 when 5 is, you know?
If you look at what M5 says, these things should be way better than 30 centimeters off.
Then when
Way
you
better,
blend them together,
Closer
it's
to-
like it,
closer to 10
and
centimeters.
it would convert the SAE to metric, so it would have the SAE.
But it kind of bounces all over the place.
That's change. I would be the.
And they see all that.
Would be the
order
base.
based off the first digit,
I'll be the tab.
so like it's putting, 3 before, as the, well, it's just 3, so it goes up here in the 3s, instead of it being the metric on the right.
That's like when you ask it to sort things like date.
Then
One-
said,
1.4,
August is the first month of the year.
Yeah, yeah, That kind of sorting
1.38.
algorithm is horrifying with that. I'd
simple.
been better off to pull up,
Do I?
a picture of an old
Yeah,
conversion chart.
And the base.
So that's the thing, I was trying to get around not doing that, because the one I had out in the shop is all ate up and half of it's missing. Well, this would be kick, I'll just
One point,
throw it in the computer and print it out, and then I'll just go
one
back
point
out.
five,
I'm not gonna
1.49.
play with AI for an hour,
Yeah.
trying to make it do what I wanted to do, and I never thought about printing out a new sheet from the internet, like a picture. Yeah. But you know, it's funny what it can do and what it can't do.
What? I don't remember how I ended up.
Not even
I thought I asked
Doesn't
for
matter.
all the
one
various
point
sizes.
three,
uh,
1.4, 1.5.
SAE.
It's jumping all over the place.
And I got it in digital form, not visual. And was able to load that into spreadsheet. Gosh,
Yeah, I've not been real
Well, and
happy.
that's been saying, spreadsheet, once you have
And
it all
they're-
in digital
they're not
form,
cheap.
Usually Excel does well. at
They
that.
were like $40,
The difference between
like
you know,
$40 a
3 and
piece.
13. You know?
That was back.
AI
when it was
doesn't
theirs.
know.
Excel does know how to sort numbers.
Yeah, that's the one thing it knows how to do most of the time. But yeah, AI doesn't have that down yet.
AI knows stuff.
There's some stuff it doesn't do.
Doesn't do most things.
13 comes before 4, you know,
Oh, yeah,
because 1's lower than 4, right?
that makes sense. At least there's some, at least there's some almost logic to it.
Well, because Macs sort like that too.
Okay,
That's what I said.
at least there's
Macs-
some almost logic to that.
Macs are written by some special people now.
A long time ago, I started reading Scientific American, and there was a guy that wrote a mathematical games column. His name was Martin Gardner. And he retired, and a new guy took over, Douglas Hofstadter. And he had been a mathematics professor at New York University. And he commented in one of the first columns that he could see the Empire State Building out the windows in the classroom. And he asked his students, non-mathematicians, estimate how tall the building was.
1.2, it finally settled down, 1.2.
And when he got the answers, he was dumbfounded.
1,
Because they
5,
ranged
6,
from
1,
50
6.
feet in the entire building to 5,000.
But not only is
miles up.
I'd say it's
all
all
precise, it's not precise, but
Strangely,
also is.
the guy that estimated a mile,
Movies
so
like
what?
random.
He said, okay, it's probably
It's-
100 stories
it's-
and
It
I'm guessing
seems
50
like
story.
when you move it,
But
you have to
it's-
give it time to settle.
It was inconceivable to him that
1.5,
were in the class
1.54, 1.54.
didn't recognize that there was two orders of magnitude between.
It's not.
So he came up with a contest that he was gonna get
2
the
point-
publishers of Scientific
2.1,
American to give away $1
2.13.
million.
I'm at 160.
But the caveat was it would go to the person that submitted the largest number. But the $1 million would be
basically
divided by the
2.0.
number you submitted. So he said he was
that would be
pretty
accurate, right?
sure
That
that
would
there
be-
wasn't any risk of paying out anything.
Well, that's way off.
And people submitted
That'd be
numbers so
accurate.
big. He said
That's
he
way off.
couldn't conceive of them.
Oh,
2.3,
whatever
2.
underestimate
2.4.
people, have a good year.
Well, Julie and I were
Way
talking
off.
the other night about, I grew up with slide rule. I didn't have a calculator until
before.
I was out of graduate school. And so, with slide rules, you get the numbers, but not the order of magnitude, so. It's kind of like an AI type thing.
Yeah.
One,
You gotta move the decimal point itself.
yeah, and so it's important to know
Looks like it gets worse the further away you go.
No,
what's the
I
volume.
remember that
Really,
thing,
it's
it's
a
just like
slide.
a V-shape,
Well, it's not 1 inch.
Yeah.
capital D
And,
letter.
and,
Yeah,
and the foot makes it multiple of 12. Yeah.
But when people started using calculators, they just punched the numbers in, whatever the calculator said, that was the number. And it was the
Okay. Think about or double check it by knowing your long width to your height.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of people in there and put in that. There was a guy I watched a long time ago and he talked about different way to teach, especially like engineering and math classes.
How you turn off,
It's most of
you can't turn it off, it's plugged into the power.
professors
holding out.
are taught you
You double click it, double, double.
English style. There was the universities, it was like Cambridge and that the teach men, you know, they're used to being, well, here's the problem, here's how to work.
That's what I needed to see, I mean, it's,
You know, they're
right.
happy to like take that, do the work, regurgitate the answers, right? And we said, but to appeal to women, they have to have some kind of emotional investment, like, hey, you know, you're trying to build a bridge, how high does it need to be for these people to be able to get across to help them get out of the situation they're in, you know, and it's like, but we turn it into something like that, it also includes more guys who will be interested in learning how to do it, because they want to help other people solve the problem too, you know, so that's kind of like where the disparity, you know, has come in the last 50 years, you know, have so few girls in engineering classes anymore, because it was taught that style, you know, a couple of, you know, like in the last 10 years, 15 years, push to try to make people think of how to solve solutions instead of just slapping the problems and make them learn how to think and everything too, and get them involved in problem solving.
Do
But not a
you,
lot of places do that still.
do you wanna tell your radiation thing,
I can,
because that would be cool?
I definitely can. So we had a convention, that's for the security convention this week, and I spoke at, and there's the badge this year was a Geiger counter, right? So the Sunday they had a talk of the guy that designed the badge, you know, and talking about what all he went through, you know, and so that kind of, it was a 20-year back burner quicker that was, you know, to have the opportunity to build this on the Geiger counter for the badge. And said he, of course, you know, he was an 80s kid, he grew up to the parents of two scientists, you know, so his toys were, you know, he had a computer to play with, and he had like geology, so he was a rock fan as a kid, and this and that, and he said, you know, in like 2000, he went to Arizona and did a hike by himself or whatever, rented a truck, drove around, picked up some rock to the geology, you know, geek, and said he stopped for gas at a gas station. And the clerk from the gas station came out, and because they're out there in the desert, he has a Geiger counter, and he sent him out to the truck, and it went wild because of the rock he had in the bed of this rental truck, right? So he said that got him tinkering with Geiger counters, and it became a, you know, side hobby, and he started buying like the civilian Geiger counters in the 50s and 60s and fixing them, you know, and there's another guy, he named off the guy's name that had made like a modern kit, you know, and that he's, you know, had gotten a hold of the kit or something and made it and figured out how to circuit boards, you know.
Let me ask you, was this really an ionizing radiation detector, or was it an actual Geiger counter?
For honestly, it was a Geiger counter, but you had to buy the additional screen and inside it, you didn't have a thing to tell you what the grad was, which is church. Off the normal badge because of the costs. But he goes through the story of how he got the tubes too, because he said over the last 20 some odd years, anyhow, he got to where he repaired a bunch of those civilian ones, and then he suggested designs with this guy for the made this kit, and then the two of them designed a modern kit together. He sold thousands of those and built a lot of those and sold them at flea markets and stuff like that for fun. When his son turned 10, they went out and flew out and went and collected rocks that were radioactive. They had made a modification to a metal detector to be a Geiger counter, and then they found rocks that set off the Geiger counter. So, and they collected all these rocks, and of course they'd flown. So back then you had the if it fits, it ships flat rate boxes, right? So they sent like 30 of those boxes back at $4 a pop. Had like 3,800 rocks that they brought, shipped back home here to Middletown or wherever it was he's from. And he was the top seller on eBay for 2 years, selling uranium rocks on the internet, right? And made $80,000 just selling off those rocks for 2 years. And he said you'd be amazed at who all bought those. It's like then he started getting like kind of concerned with like, who's buying rocks from me, right? So he started paying attention to who was buying the rocks from him, because he's sending them all over the place. And he said, he's got like the DOD buying from him, the Air Force buying from him. He got, these people over here and this and that buying them. And he said, he got into the story of like, it was kind of interesting. It's like, because the Air Force, like to test their instrumentation, it's manufactured radioactive material, which is highly regulated, highly controlled. So there's an obscene amount of paperwork. It has an armed guard that must be transported in an armored vehicle wherever they transport it. And if they need to move it, it needs an armed escort. But if it's natural occurring source, they can just throw it in their backpack, carry it, and take it to where they need to, right? So he's like, Air Force was all over buying from him, They said, but it killed him because they wanted them to embed it in epoxy shielding or whatever in order to mail it to them. So they had all these conditions they had to put in the boxes. They didn't want anybody to accidentally get exposed. And said that, of course, they paid him nicely, but as a rock hound, it was destroyed him to dip those in the epoxy, get rid of the pretty rock, right? And some other people in like Bob Lazar, his company bought a whole bunch of them too from one of his assistants' name, but then the paychecks were coming from Bob Lazar because he had met radioactive company or whatever, after he, kind of squelched on Area 51 or whatever. And he said that he'd bought like a couple hundred rocks off of him over the years. And so it was kind of funny, but then said 2016 he got divorced and just kind of shut down and stopped doing everything. So they said he's in the last year, of course, they came to him and wanted to do this Fallout themed conference. So they asked him, build a badge, and he's like, well, he said, I used to build Geiger counter. He's got parts laying everywhere for him. He's like, I'll build Geiger counter badges. So he's like, but the catch was like in 2016, it was easy to buy the Russian tubes. Everybody's out of the Russian tubes, and we don't trade with the Russians anymore. And American tubes are like $100 and some plus a pop. So he said, well, it's like can't really get the tubes. And he finally found a Chinese company that is manufacturing new tubes, and they're $12 a pop. And he said, well, that we can afford to put on the badge, I said, but then the catch-22 is the tariffs start, right? And like, so it's like, all right, prototype board, sent off the prototype. The first 5 boards cost him like $7 for 5 boards, and he's like, no problem. And he's like, made some remods and ordered the second batch. And he's like, and then that's the tariffs kicked in. It's like the second batch of 5 cards cost him $45, right? So then he was like, oh crap, so then he's like, And he's like, revision 3, 4, and 5 are all in the mail. It also took like 2 extra weeks to get the first round of boards. We're like, it only took a week, the first set of boards, the second one took 2 weeks, and then like the other set took 3 weeks. So he ordered, the next 2 revisions without waiting. Then they ended up ordering, like 200 of them sight unseen, because they still didn't get the 5th board, to make sure they were all right, just to get them ordered. And so of course then the Taiwanese quit shipping, so like half the Geiger counter tubes order was canceled because they weren't shipping to the US any longer, coming from Taiwan. So it was kind of, it went through, but they managed to, build like 200 of these badges. And he, in the story going along of what he did, and then he's showing pictures of some of the rocks he had, and then he said what's kind of funny is like, so his modern version, he said several years ago, him and his buddy, they had, instead of going with the Geiger counter, because he had built a machine that would scan, like kind of like a like light or like the LiDAR kind of stuff, like you go through and track with the thing and go back and forth, and they would come up on his laptop where the hot rocks were, right? And then they go back to that spot and dig up the rock. And he said, but that was work. It took time, and it, was kind of crazy. He said, so when him and his buddy got together, he built a 400 nanometer spotlight, like big rig spotlight or whatever rig. And then he made a backpack kind of like the proton pack from Ghostbusters for the battery pack. And he said they went out there in the middle of the night, flipped on the switch, and he's like shining across the desert. And he said that was the way to do it, because like there's yellow rock here, there's yellow rock there, there's a green rock there, there's a green. So they could just walk up, grab them, and put them in the drum. But yeah, it was real interesting talking what all, his adventures of 20-some years of playing with radioactive rocks, But then he said that 2 years that he was selling them on eBay, it was almost a second job, because it's like he'd spend the morning, measuring what each radioactive one was, tagging each one, labeling it, taking pictures of it, putting it in the case, post it on eBay, spend the afternoons packaging the ones that sold from the week before, putting them in the mail to ship them off on Monday mornings. He'd spend all day Sunday just doing that every weekend. Yeah, interesting.
I had some neat experiences at Middletown Works, because I was an RSO there.
Mhm.
And I had read where Auburn Steel, a mini mill up in New York, had accidentally charged in amongst their scrap an americium-241 one Curie source. And they had a tundish level controller where it shined a beam of light, of radiation across, and when the level of iron came up, it shut the beam down and said no more. But when it came down, the detector saw the beam and said, oh, more iron, dump more iron. When the contaminated steel got into the ladle, the detector said, we need more iron. I'm seeing that beam again.
Because it's coming off the material.
So they opened up further and further and further until steel is flooding over the top. And they called the technical services guy and said, your meter's screwed up, come over here and fix this. So he doesn't realize that when, like, I know this, you turn the meter on when you leave the office, not when you're there in the middle of the swamp. And so he gets there, he turns the meter on, he says, well, my meter's screwed up. this can't be right. Well, long and short of it, I said, fluke, that's never gonna happen again. Well, it did. It happened down at Los Alamos. They were buying picnic tables. And the legs of the picnic tables had been made in Mexico, and they had charged the source. And the detectors at Los Alamos caught them going into the plant. So it's like, I am not in a position where we can afford to contaminate the entire process. This is, we've got to come up with something. So we had scintillation devices that were used for aerial surveying, where they would fly over areas and pick out the underlying uranium from the air. And we bought from two different companies. In case one of them, well, the technician came in and turned it to calibrate and never turned it back. And we had it for the truck scales, and we had it for the railroad scales. And I get a call from the truck scale, and they say, we don't know what's going on. This is just wood. You know, we don't think there's any possibility. And the driver had a stress test 2 weeks earlier with radioactive polonium. And he was the one that set off the detectors. And people said, well, how did you figure that out? I said, I stood him on a stepladder between the detectors and then covered up the sensor. And it went off. And then I got up on the stepladder and covered up the sensor, and it didn't go off. So it was an interesting thing. We extended that to all of our strut suppliers and made all of our strut suppliers put them in. And turns out that radium is very common in groundwater, and calcification that builds up on outdoor water systems will set off the detectors. And so the state is coming in to the suppliers all the time and confirming that it is in fact naturally occurring. It's like, I don't want any of that crap.
Yeah.
coming
But that was one of the stories. It was funny too, is because when he went out there, he went out there by himself or with his, he didn't say there was anybody with him. He did a tour of the mines. It was a real famous mine that Curry got her samples from, that was made by a geologist that had been booted out of geology. So they said he was nuts, but he said there was no uranium there, but he found the richest uranium vein in North America, right? He said he took his metal detector there when he turned it on, and he went into the cave and it went off, just walking, and it wouldn't shut off. So it wouldn't shut off. He said he came back outside, it wouldn't shut off. He thought this thing broke, but he said because of the radion was so prevalent in that cave that it had electrically statically stuck to the detector.
Yeah.
And it said, so he said two things he learned there was his detector was not broke and he should not be breathing the air. And he recommends that if you do go there, bring an air respirator.
At least, at minimum.
I forgot I had these in my pocket. We were given
Oh,
$40 worth of these at Outback. We are not going to be able to use $40 worth of gift cards before the 17th of December.
you eat it out back?
Not very often.
Yeah,
If you want them, but if you don't, I've got one on my side of town. But
me and Patty really don't eat there often enough.
And we don't eat there that often either. But,
I've been to the upper.
10 bucks is $10 if you do.
Well, I'll take one and you take one. Or you want one from Outback?
Outback,
You eat it out there?
Yeah.
There you go.
I told my wife, and she said, okay, so,
There you go. $20.
and you can use two of them. Just one.
One head.
Yeah. Or
Split the bill. You
Make your wife pay for herself.
make your wife pay.
now, earlier you were talking about men and women differently in how they approach problems. I may have told you guys this before, and if I have, please stop me. Like, about 15 years ago, I come down and Julie is making a dish for church. And she's doubling the recipe. The way she doubled the recipe was she made an entire batch, completed, cleaned up, and then made her dynamite. And I looked at her and I said, well, why did you do that?
Seems right.
Well, it turns out when she was in grade school, they were about to start fractions in the grade school she was in. And her parents moved and they went to a grade school that had finished fractions.
So she missed fractions altogether.
So she never knew, didn't understand the concept of fractions. And I say, well, I can teach you fractions. And she says, yeah, I'm 55 years old. I've done my entire life and nobody has never noticed. You've been married to me 5 years and didn't notice. I didn't know fractions, so I don't need them. Thank you very much.
I just use it twice instead of once. I mean, you still use the 3/4 cup and just do it twice. Double batch, bigger bowl.
I'm not a big fan of fractions, but I kind of was sort of in the same. I missed a couple of days of school and missed some of the fractions, which is probably why I don't really like them. But I picked them up. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, yes, I understand halves and quarters, and it's when you start getting into some of the other
13/64 and
Yeah.
those fractions.
17/128.
Well,
Eventually, I've always figured out that sooner or later they all reduce down to either a half or a quarter.
well, 187 2/32. Yeah.
Whack
How
off
big is that? I have no idea.
just subtract one and divide by 12.
So Julie started back to nursing school.
Oh,
And one of the tests was on fractions. And she tried the idea, well, I really don't need to know fractions. They weren't having that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she ended up in a remedial class getting grade school fractions. 2 weeks later, she's, oh yeah, fractions. This is like, she's a smart woman. It wasn't for lack of,
Yeah, we just don't want to
yeah,
spend the time on it.
yeah. And so she had the class and now she knows fractions.
you know how I taught the middle kid she was struggling with math for a long time. And I finally told her, don't think about it as math, think about it as money. And she goes, oh, she reads through all of it except for very small portion of it, because all of a sudden it turned into, instead of
Times a nickel.
100, it was $100 instead of,
Yeah.
oh, I got money. I know money. Yes, I know you know money. You know how to spend money really well. But
Half 100.
it's kind of a weird thing. People learn differently. And if you just word something just slightly different and they go, oh, I've been doing that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a conceptual,
Yeah.
we can get it in the perspective of how we
Well,
think of it. And
I've actually been doing fractions for a very long time. Well, yeah, you just don't know it.
I was an adjunct professor at Miami for a little while. And I can remember this one class. I don't remember what the subject was. I went through the entire evening session. And I looked, and the entire class was just glazed over. And it's like, okay, I'll try a different approach. We'll do this again next week. Because these were bright people. They just didn't have a clue.
Well,
Yeah.
it goes a little bit to experience too, right? I mean, you know what you're talking about, but nobody else does, so you have to figure out how to explain it. Yeah.
That's the one thing that really irks me off looking back at all the math classes. I mean, I took Calc 1 through 5, trig, discrete math. I don't know how to apply or what it was. Most of it was even for them, but they never gave us a frame of reference on what those equations would even do.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, the volume of a sphere or something like that's one thing, but then like you start getting the elaborate method, then
Yeah.
what is this for? Or where does this apply? It would have been so much easier to comprehend if you knew how to or what it went to.
Well, the math that I absolutely hated and that I use all the freaking time was geometry. I
Yeah.
hated going to geometry classes. And turns out you use that all the
Place.
freaking time.
I didn't mind geometry. That was a piece of cake, but
Well, it
I
was
wasn't
the way it was
much a
taught
fan
to.
of trig, but
It was the way it was taught, and it was just
yeah.
I went from absolutely hating geometry, and I went to a more advanced class, and I was like, okay, this all perfectly makes sense, perfectly fine. And then I get out in the real world and everything's geometry, and I mean, I know it, I've got it up here,
Well,
but the way it was taught,
Yeah.
yes, oh, God, I hated it. I just could not stand doing it.
the equivalent for me was biology. And here's a cell, and here are all the organelles in there. And here's the mitochondria. And it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if they had said, we know that that's a mitochondria and this and this, but no one knows what the mitochondria does. If somebody had said that when I was a freshman in high school, I'd be a biologist.
I wanna
I want to know what it's doing.
I'm gonna figure out what that mitochondria
Figure out how
does.
this thing works.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember sitting in geometry class and they're teaching you how to figure out the area of a triangle, and I'm just sitting there going, why do I need to know this? And they can't tell you why. It's
Yeah.
here, this is how you do it. Well, you get out in the real world, and of course, I'm a radar tech on a submarine. Guess what I'm doing? A bunch of triangulation. Guess what? That's perfect geometry problem. I know what this is.
It always drove me bonkers. They spend all that time pounding in your head, and at least in my high school, and atoms, neutron, protons, and electrons, and that's all there is to it. And it's like, yeah, and I went into metallurgy, and it's like, and they're talking about this part and that part and this thingy and that positron and that. And I'm like, the hell are you guys coming up with all these names? Because they weren't in my book. Like, did I skip a class?
Patty,
Where did you learn all this? Because it's not, wasn't in my textbook.
about 4 or 5 years ago, Patty took a college class and she had to retake some math, and they gave her an entry algebra 1 class. And she was not getting it at all. And I said, well, just do it the way you know how to do it. Right. And she would come up with the right answer, but the problems were wrong. Right. I mean, I have Still, when the woman does math, I have no idea how she gets the right answer. She gets the right answer, I just don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
But
Got her block, got her way.
you know how, at least in high school, you were supposed to show your work, how you
Yeah, I was never good at that.
reasoned it out and figured out. Well, they wanted her to show her work, and every single time it was, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. How did you get the right answer? And I'm like, we play math games every night, online, and I sit there. Well, no, we're pretty equal, really,
Okay.
but I sit there and listen to her doing math out loud, and I'm going, what?
Yeah.
How did what?
I
That
watched,
is not it. You got to do it in this order, otherwise you won't get the right answer.
I watched a guy demo how the Japanese do it in their head.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, see, I
that
think
makes no goddamn sense at all.
I think that
But it works and it's 10 times easier.
I think that's how Patty does it. Partially, I think
Yeah.
she partially
There's
does it in her
definitely
head,
better ways to
partially
do it
doesn't.
than what they teach in school. And nowadays, the new math stuff is.
Oh yeah, well, that's what she was learning was new math, and
Those kids
she-
don't have a chance.
she said there were like estimates. Estimates are bizarre in new math, and I'm just sitting there going, you know, you got some number plus some number plus some number, give us an estimate. Well, okay, all these numbers add up to 9,000 or something. So I would estimate that it's somewhere around, without doing the math, 8,900, give or take. Pretty good estimate, maybe. They wanted like 7,600 or something. I was like, wait, how did they come up with this number? Because that is not even close to 9 grand.
I don't know.
The classic example of it's not how fast you get the answer, it's the answer being correct.
Yeah.
There was a guy who came up with, he was going to solve for the mass of the planets and moons, all of them in the solar system. So the classic example is the gravity or the mass of one planet and the mass of the moon times the distance between them, inverse square. And then you take that moon and you go to the sun, and then you take that planet and you go to the sun. And you take that moon and you go to the moon on another planet, and you start going, and there's thousands of combinations. So he wrote out all the combinations and he started working to solve them. He did line after line after line. 29 and a half years into the problem, he made one mistake from one line to the next line. He spent another 25 years not knowing he made a mistake and came up with the wrong answer. So it doesn't matter how quick you do the math,
Do it right.
you gotta do it.
Well,
That's not the guy that came up
There is a
with
joke
round
about
zero.
an interview. There is a joke. Some guy is interviewing a woman and asks, "Are you fast in math?" "Yes, I'm very fast." "Okay. 5 + 2, 8. "No, it's incorrect. But I am fast."
Didn't say I was good. Didn't say I was good.
see that, I mean, that's what it's just bunk. If you listen to Patty do math, and I know you're a math guy, you will lose your mind because you'll go, how did you get the right answer off of that?
Well, see, I think the new, quote unquote, the new math is a good thing.
All right. I haven't looked at it to learn how to do it, but
Oh,
I had a friend whose son got marked wrong for the correct answer.
Yeah.
He
well,
wasn't doing it the way they wanted it done.
I mean, that was my thing with Patty and estimates. I sat there and looked at something and went, yeah, your estimate looks pretty good. They want some bizarre number that
Based off some crazy
Yeah,
algorithm that's
well-
scored by 30%.
Growing
at
up,
least.
everything was memorized, and I hate memorization. I want to understand how things work and why they work.
Mhm.
I don't